Hey everybody, I'll tell you what, welcome to LSO Tips and Techniques. I'll tell you, we have got a great day out here today. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up on this reef, and basically we're gonna fish the windward side. There's a 6-foot hump right in back of us, right here. And right now we're gonna position the boat in about 9 foot, so I should have no problem reaching back to that high spot right there. And again, anytime that wind is blowing like it is today, them fish are gonna gravitate right up to the very tops of these points, and always work the windward side. So important, because them aggressive fish are gonna move right up on top.
We got a great shot today. The rougher the conditions, the better they are on the shallow water.
Why is that, Lance?
It's stirring up the bait fish, whether you have leeches down there or minnows. That water gets dirtier faster.
It's easier
and the predators come up there, and it's feed time.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Hey, how about this, Lance? You know, I noticed this with you when you like to drift like this. It's real crucial to slow the boat down, and you're always using drift socks.
Always use a drift sock. You know, the first pass, until we find the fish, I might drift a little faster, but once you find them, get them drift socks out.
Slow you down.
Slow down. You get
it
3 or
just
4
gives you
times more casts on it.
You're 100%
on the active
right.
fish.
Game on. Finally. Hey, I'll tell you what, everybody. Definitely the fish are stacked back there. Nice walleye right there. And basically what I was doing is I just anchored up with the spot lock right there and just pitching that jig back real slow, working it really slow. You know, the first cast, I definitely had another one right there. But, you know, 2 casts, missed one the first time, got one on the second. I'm loving it. Basically, the key is to this is that when you have a lot of wind, and right now I'm positioned at that high spot is exactly right in back of us, just far enough so I can cast back. I like to cast straight back because I want to be able to control that bait. And if I cast off to the side, the wind is going to grab it when it's this strong and make a bow of my line, and it's going to pull that jig faster than I want it to slide. If this is a sheephead, it's time to move to another spot. Not that, you know, the great part is that sheephead and the walleyes do coexist together for sure, but what do you got there? And if you got a sheephead, we're out of here. You do? All right, no, nice job. Hey, I'll tell you what, you know, that is the great part. We're both casting jigs straight back. And the reason, again, why we're casting straight back is to be able to control the bait right there. But Lance is definitely jigging a little bit more aggressively. I'm just slowly sliding the bait along the bottom where he's giving it a little bit of pop. And a lot of times that is the key. When you're out here, it always seems like the rougher it is, obviously the more turbulence that's in the water, the more action that you want to give that bait. So give that jig that more pop. Gave it a little bit more pop, and I do believe I have the right flavor. At least I think I do. Yep, I do. There it is. You know, that is the cool part too. Here we go. Boy, this system has got a lot of these 12, 13-inch walleyes in it right there. Casting 1/8 ounce jigs, using 6-pound test mono. For this kind of fishing, I very seldom use any kind of super braid. I like that stretch in the line, especially on the walleyes, because what happens when they grab it, I'll actually pull them a little ways before I set the hook. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make, is especially on walleyes when you're casting or you're drifting, is basically you're setting the hook too soon. Let them fish load up on it. That's why I like to use the rods that have real soft tips on them, fast action. Use a lot of mono so you have that stretch. The times where I'm going to use a super braid is when I'm pulling like rigs, you know, slow death. I'm pulling, you know, spinners. I'm casting cranks where I want to get the distance. When I'm pulling something, I want to be able to cut that water easily. That's the difference. But when I'm either drifting or casting for walleyes, I typically with live bait like to have monofilament. Just, it seems like 6-pound works about the best. The key is too, you got to remember when you're pitching rocks, especially nowadays, we have so many zebra mussels that you don't want to use a jig that's too heavy, but you want to use a jig that's heavy enough that you got to be able to control that bait. But the problem is if you use a jig that is too heavy, you're constantly grinding into the rocks. And what's going to happen, the zebra mussels are so thick on these rocks that it's constantly cutting your line. So again, you want to use a jig, and really what determines on the weight of the jig that you're going to use really determines on the depth of water that you're fishing. And the other part is how much wind there is, because the more wind you get, the more turbulence you get, and you got that the wind is lifting your line, and obviously the waves are going to be bigger. So really, again, it comes down to a control factor. You've got to be able to control that bait for sure. Feels actually pretty big. It's a big fish. Might be a nutter, Lance.
He's actually got one in the boat, huh?
Yep, I'll tell you what. This feels like definitely a nice fish, Lance. Oh, nice walleye. Hey, hey, hey.
There you go.
That's what you like, buddy. Hey, that is absolutely awesome. Again, you know, that's kind of the cool part too about using the spot lock features on these trolling motors, is that all you got to do is jog over, you know, 15, 20, 30 feet, and hey, there you go. You know, and that is a nice walleye. No matter where you're fishing, that is absolutely great walleye. About 18 inches, that's about as big as we keep them out here. This system, again, doesn't have any size limit. It's a 3-fish limit. So we're very conservative on what we catch and keep out here. We definitely let them bigger fish go, but that's definitely a nice fish. Let me show you the jig that I was using too, because I did switch jigs. I'm gonna put this one in the live well, Lance. I basically switched up on my jig and I went to a slow poke jig, and I just like the way this jig actually goes across the water, and you can see that's exactly how it would lay on the bottom, where that body, the back of the jig is standing way up. It allows you to get through a lot of these bigger rocks, and the huge thing is about the system now is that there's so many zebra mussels. So that's definitely key, having a nice right jig. What do you got there, buddy?
Another goat.
Another goat, huh? Well, typically you're the guy that is catching the walleye and I'm catching the goat, but tonight's a little bit different, at least right now. Let's talk a little bit too about the crawler. I typically myself on most days like to use the head of the crawler more. And when I'm using a jig like this, basically what I'm doing is I'm threading that crawler on and it's coming right off the bend of the hook right there. Again, with this, what happens when I'm lifting up like this, real slow like this, and if I get way up here and I feel that fish on there, I quick wind down and I give, oh, just like that. Oh, I missed him. I give it about a half a pull, and what happens is you put that right pressure on that fish. He actually, instead of dropping it, like if you had super braid, there's going to be too much pressure, and most of the time they're going to drop it. With mono, there's enough stretch there, you're pulling back, and the pressure's just right. The fish thinks the bait's getting away from them, and they actually lunge up on it. It works out perfect. Hey, Lance, I'll tell you what, we caught plenty of fish jigging.
Yep.
Now let's go to your technique, and let's start casting some crankbaits and show everybody at home exactly what kind of crankbaits you like to use, what's the proper way to cast them, because a lot of people probably just think that you take a crankbait, you just cast it and reel it in, but there's a lot more, especially when these fish are finicky, to try to get them to hit.
Yeah, we'll go into detail there, Larry. Fish the same area that we've been jigging here and see if we can get them on cranks.
Well, I know we can get them, Lance. I got full confidence in you.
Typically what I like to cast is number 7 countdown Rapalas.
And why is that, Lance?
Well, we're usually fishing anywhere from 3 to 6 feet of water.
Okay.
The countdown Rapala you can cast a long ways, get a long distance out of it.
On it. Now, are we using mono or super braid?
Super braid on this here. Another bait that we cast when we have heavy winds is Salmos, but you have to cast with the wind, get it away from the boat. That's also another great bait to use here. The Rapalas I've used for years, black and gold, fire tiger, perch. Yep.
You know what? Nice. I'll tell you what, that did not take long at all. And that's pretty cool, Lance, because typically when I'm casting a crankbait like that, especially a Rapala, I'm not really snapping it a lot. Boy, that fish, ooh, that fish definitely wanted that bait. It's just as we put the drift socks down, slowed us down, and basically just kind of snapping that bait a little bit as we're winding in, using kind of a medium retrieve.
Wind kind of switched back to the east.
Yeah. Good to see this class out here, though.
Yeah, it is.
All fun.
All right.
Especially that in the street cool there.
There you go, Lance. Woo! Nice job, buddy. Nice job. Right kind?
Certainly feels like it. No, whitey. Didn't fight much for a whitey.
Yeah, I did. I thought that's fun.
Yep.
There you go. Nice job. Hey, everybody, I'll tell you what, it is definitely time to go in. We've got a lot of storms coming in. I hope you guys enjoyed our YouTube video tips and techniques here at LSO. We make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember, like I always say, it's a great day to be alive.